So now the big moment comes. You want to photograph that little sweet baby.
Yes.
Look at that. She's just adorable to work with.
What tips do you have when photographing babies or children?
So many. There's so many. First things first, the child comes first. You want to make sure you are so ready. The stage is set. The environment is ready to go. You don't want to put the baby in direct sunlight. There's a lot of reasons you can get sunburn and all that sort of stuff, so you want to put them in a nice, soft, beautiful light to work in. If you're working with little infants, a tip to have is like if they're sitting on a blanket or whatnot, put a heating pad underneath, like the little infant ones. If they're sleeping, it'll keep them warm. The environment has to be warm, because if you're going to do something, because a lot of times if you do a little infant, you want to have the diaper off and everything, and you want to be sitting there.
And you know, too, if you have a crazy costume, if you have a crazy costume like that, make sure that you don't put it on until like a few minutes before.
Exactly.
We went through that.
We had to take it on, put it on.
Exactly. And make sure that they're sleeping and got the rest, because you want them to be alive. Work quickly.
Yeah.
Work quickly.
We actually have some footage from the photo shoot a little earlier today that you did with Alexandra. Here it is. Look at that.
So what we did is I laid out a little, we wanted to have a foundation, obviously, to shoot off of and create sort of a fantasy. So we had this real furry blanket. And then we began to set things up. And I worked with Tanya here going, here's the angle I'm going to be doing. I created this light modifier. I'll tell you a little bit about this. But basically, it's to slow things down. That sun's not really direct. And it turned out, because of the time of day, we used it as a backdrop. And it became this big, beautiful backlit silk. And then here comes the star with her mom, and we got her all nestled in, and she sat in there, and she was priceless.
Oh my God.
And really be really ready to go. I know, look, I use my big camera on this. I don't want that to intimidate you. You can get this with a point and shoot camera, even with an iPhone, if you know what you're doing. But she was amazing, and she was so present when she was there.
Look at her looking at you. She loves you.
It runs in the blood, Debbie. You know?
I will tell you, it's always good as a photographer, spend time with the baby, because once they get to know you and they're familiar, they'll be really, she sparkles when I
You spent all morning with her, too, so I witnessed it. It was adorable.
How does lighting vary when you're shooting a baby, though?
Right. As I said, you want it. So I created this, Tanya, if you want to step aside. These are called light modifiers. Okay. This is something we made. It's a simple, you can buy these things, but this is a bed sheet with little Velcro corners, right? And this is PVC. This is 4x4. You can make it any size you want. It's super light. We put on the little handle. You get somebody to help. And light coming through here softens, and it makes things very beautiful. And here's your #1 note. If I was shooting little Alexandra, say the sun is overhead, I would bring it as low to her as possible without being in the frame, and it'll create the softest light. And with the baby skin being so beautiful and smooth, unlike ours, all freckle face or whatever, it'll make a really soft, pretty light on the baby.
So if you don't have that, if you don't have a professional one, you just make it at home with sheets and some PVC
and
piping.
Experiment. You don't always, you may use a linen here. You may use silk. If you go to the store, you can find, this is not expensive, and you can layer it. Find some really thin, and you can layer it depending upon how bright it is or what this.
And if you get crafty and kind of a little more advanced, could you even like do, say, an orange?
You could. It would throw a hue on. You want to stay as white as you can, bleached if you can, because then you're going to have true colors to deal with. So, but as soon as you throw that, you're going to get a little funky. You can do that later if you want. If you want to give it that sort of
like a scrim or a gel or something like we do sometimes. And she's eating my finger. She loves it. Can we see the final picture?
Okay. This is. Let's take a final look. Now, when I did this, I found the right angle to kind of put her and make. If I were higher looking down on her, it wouldn't have been as flattering unless she was an infant sleeping in the nest, like she was wrapped in there. But we had her propped up. Now, here's a tip: when you prop up anybody and put something behind them, we started. If I can get it, can you take a wide shot? And you can see here, this started initially behind little Alexandra, and you could see it off of her shoulders. So we had to tuck it down and get her to really sit against it. And if you go back to the photo real quick, you'll see you don't see it really behind her. But because she can't sit up on her own, so you really want to take a moment to get her propped up and make sure she feels really secure in there.
And yet not take away from the nest in the back. Yeah. So I have to ask you, was Debbie on set?
Well, that's how you get a smile. And the real photo was Alexandra, but the real scene was going on behind me.
Wait, no, you did not.
This is. That's where it's at. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I looked at her, I told you. She's probably looking at Mom going, you're kind of crazy, lady. All I have to say is, Ann Geddes ain't got nothing on Mark Steines and Tanya Meme.
Wow.
It's the baby that does it.
Yes, you're the star.
Well, we will have more. By the way, one quick technical thing, shoot in RAW. Get onto your camera, and I'll tell you why. Because if you end up taking a picture and you get a wonderful picture like this, you go to the printer and it's in a small JPEG and they go, oh, I don't have a lot of information to print from. You can always reduce the size of the file, but shoot in RAW.
Great point.
And you got some good stuff.
I love you guys.
We love you too.